are the large freight doors near the end of the restored Combination 22 depot that served the community of Goleta from 1901 to 1973. We enter a world of miniature trains which depicts the Goleta and Santa Barbara areas in the 1930s and 1940s. The exhibit is housed in the freight room of the depot, which had been used by several vegetable packers starting sometime in the 1930s. The vegetable packers added a metal shed to the end of the depot, which can be seen in the model. The exhibit is modeled in HO scale, which is 1/87th actual size. The name HO is derived from the fact that HO scale models are about 1/2 the size of O scale models, such as the Lionel trains of winter holidays past. In 1985, the Alice Tweed Toohey Foundation, a local charitable organization, awarded the Institute of American Research a grant to develop the exhibit. The grant funds were used for materials and supplies. The professional staff developed the design, and the volunteers constructed the exhibit to share it each year with thousands of visitors. The grant called for a historically accurate exhibit which faithfully depicts the communities of Santa Barbara and Goleta vis-a-vis the railroading activity. The exhibit was to serve a dual purpose of educating and entertaining museum visitors. One of the most important specific educational objectives of the model railroad exhibit was to make it easier to show visitors how railroad stations in general, and the Goleta Depot in particular, fit into the overall pattern of railroad operations. The layout is ideal for this, since it shows the Goleta Depot and both the Santa Barbara freight and passenger depots, all in relationship to their respective railroad yards and communities and to operating trains. Here we see the Santa Barbara Freight Depot, modeled by Dr. William McCormick. The freight depot handled less than carload freight for many years until it was torn down a number of years ago. As we move west across State Street, we see the Santa Barbara's new depot, also modeled by Dr. McCormick. It was built in 1905 to replace the Victorian-style upper depot, which was located at Victoria and Rancheria. The new station was built in Spanish colonial revival style. It was commonly held that this site was selected so the station could better serve the nearby Potter Hotel, much as the Victoria Street station had been placed within easy reach of the earlier Arlington Hotel on Upper State Street. The rich and famous even had a place to park their private rail cars next to the depot. Behind the depot is another McCormick model of the tile-roofed building on Chapala Street, which now houses a bicycle shop. It was originally used by Wells Fargo and Company, which handled Rail Express here until 1918, when the American Railway Express Company, later Railway Express Agency, was formed. Nearby is the famous Morton Bay Fig, which is modeled by docent Bill Everett. The scenic backdrop was painted by docent Hilda Volkman, who serves as a weekday station agent on Wednesday and Friday. Hilda worked in consultation with Ray Strong, the Santa Barbara Museum of Natural History diorama artist. Hilda has included many buildings and features that a visitor would have seen in the 1930s and the 1940s in the city of Santa Barbara, the Goleta Valley, and parts of Montecito. The backdrop also pictures the beautiful Santa Barbara Channel, including the islands of San Miguel, Santa Rosa, Santa Cruz, and Anacapa. And here we see the Arroyo Hondo Bridge, modeled by Raymond Baird. At the turn of the century, the Southern Pacific Railroad erected 10 steel bridges in the 61-mile stretch between Goleta and the San Ynez River. The bridging of the many canyons through this area was a major obstacle in the completion of the coast route between Los Angeles and San Francisco. A gap existed in the Southern Pacific route along the coast from 1887, when the railroad reached Santa Barbara, until December of 1900, when the gap was closed. Located 20 miles west of Goleta and 4 miles west of Refugio State Park, the Arroyo Hondo Bridge is indicative of the bridge architecture used throughout this area. It is a single-track viaduct spanning 541 feet and standing 75 feet tall. The bridge's concrete abutments and piers were prepared in 1898. In the same year, the Phoenix Bridge Company fabricated its 8 30-foot and 5 60-foot deck girders. The bridge was ready for operation in November of 1900. In 1935, the bridge was strengthened with additional vents and other reinforcements. Originally an open deck design, it was converted to a ballasted deck in 1952. We have double-tracked our model to accommodate our exhibit. More of the interesting story of closing the gap is found in a booklet of the same name written by Nan Lawler and is available in the museum gift shop. Here we can see more of Hilda's beautiful backdrop as we look down the coast past East Beach, Loon Point, and down the Rincon. And here are the hills above Montecito, including the Andre Clark Bird Refuge. Let us spend some time viewing docent Bill Everett's model of the Santa Barbara Roundhouse as we discuss its history. In January 1903, Southern Pacific acquired 5 acres bounded by Punta Gorda, Quarantina, Indio Muerto, and Nopal Streets for the purposes of constructing a roundhouse and engine facilities. The original plan showed a 10-stall roundhouse, a 45-foot turntable, and a loop track. The roundhouse was completed in 1911. It was a simple, functional structure of brick and faced with plaster with little in the way of architectural adornment. In 1925, the Santa Barbara earthquake all but destroyed this earlier structure. Southern Pacific quickly planned to reconstruct a replacement structure almost identical to its predecessor. The only improvements would be the introduction of indoor plumbing, an engineer's restroom, and a cement floor to replace the original one of compressed earth. Fortunately, Santa Barbara civic leaders were able to convince Southern Pacific that it would be beneficial both to the railroad and the city if the styling of the new building were enhanced, especially if it conformed with the Spanish colonial form that was becoming established as the standard for Santa Barbara architecture. According to local author and historian Walker A. Tompkins, Pearl Chase came up with the actual model for a Mediterranean-style roundhouse, which he provided the Southern Pacific Coast Division Chief, G.E. Gaylord, with a postcard of the Seville Bull Ring in Spain. By 1925, the new set of plans had been accepted, and the new roundhouse began operation, August 7, 1926. The roundhouse featured a distinctive arches and columns, topped along the parapet with red tiles. The new turntable was 100 feet across. Both structures continued to serve the coast route through the end of the steam era and into the diesel era. Here are two historical photographs of the Santa Barbara turntable, taken by Robert McNeil, a longtime SP engineer and currently a volunteer at the South Coast Railroad Museum. By 1961, the coast route had become all diesel and the Santa Barbara Roundhouse was closed. Here we see another model by Dr. McCormick. It is of Goleta's first St. Raphael's Catholic Church, built about 1890. The structure survives today and serves as the parish hall to the modern St. Raphael's on Hollister Avenue. The Elwood Hotel, modeled by Paul and Dave Hendrickson, was one of Goleta's first hotels and was located on Magnolia near Hollister, where it survives today as an apartment building. The Camel Auto Court, also modeled by the Hendricksons, is an example of an early motor hotel, and each unit had its own covered parking stall for the highway traveler. The actual auto court had 22 separate units and survives today near the corner of Nectarine and Hollister. Much of Goleta's industry of the past was agricultural. We already spoke of the vegetable growers. Much of Goleta's industry of the past was agricultural. We already spoke of the vegetable packers who shared the depot after 1930, but we can't forget lemons. The Valley's had several packing houses over the years, and many of the lemons were shipped via rail through the Goleta depot. Here we can see some of the buildings which have in the past, and some even currently, are along Hollister Avenue in Goleta. Here we are back at the Goleta depot itself. We hope you have enjoyed this tour of the South Coast Railroad Museum's Model Railroad exhibit, as well as your visit to the actual depot. Take the time to visit the freight office and the passenger waiting room, as well as our gift shop, where you may find more historical information about railroading, the Goleta depot, and the history of the Goleta, Santa Barbara area.